So you've been writing and talking a lot about free speech and the threats on it you see on campus, but also in American public life more broadly. How would you describe the current situation and why should we care about it?
The current situation is one in which people in general, including people on college campuses, not only students, but faculty, not only untenured and therefore, in a certain sense, insecure faculty, but tenured faculty who are secure, are censoring themselves. All the studies that have been done on this subject reveal that people are not saying what they truly believe, are not raising certain questions they'd like to ask because they fear the social or professional consequences of, quote, saying the wrong thing, unquote, or saying the right thing in, quote, the wrong, unquote, way, or failing to say something that it's regarded in this or that institution, for example, institution of higher learning, as required to say, like a loyalty oath. Well, this, in my opinion, Yashka, is terrible for institutions of higher learning, terrible for colleges and universities. It makes it impossible for us to prosecute our fundamental mission, the mission of pursuing knowledge of truth. But it's also terrible for a democratic republic. In a democratic republic, the idea, the whole idea, is that the people rule themselves. We're not ruled by a king. We're not ruled by an aristocracy or an oligarchy. We rule ourselves. Now, if we're to rule ourselves well, make good decisions, come up with the best plans for addressing our problems, doing justice, we're going to have to freely consider what's to be said on the competing sides of the various proposals. In any circumstance of freedom, reasonable people of goodwill are going to disagree about some things, including some important things. I've, as you probably know, made something of a career of being a critic of the so-called political liberalism of John Rawls and those associated with that school. But I think he was absolutely right on what he called the fact of reasonable pluralism. In circumstances of freedom, reasonable people of goodwill will find themselves disagreeing about things, and those things will not be confined to the trivial and superficial matters of life. They will include important things, important practical decisions, important decisions about what's right and wrong, just and unjust. To make those decisions well, we have to be able to seek the truth as best we can and speak the truth as best we can. Put on the table all that's to be said on the competing sides of these questions on which reasonable people of goodwill disagree. Try to persuade each other, try to learn from each other, certainly listen to each other. So I think the situation's rather dire when people are censoring themselves, or not saying what they believe, or not even asking certain questions. You can't run academic institutions that way. You can't run a democratic republic that way.